Credit cards. Credit cards. I've been watching too much meme review. What's up, guys? So a lot of people have been asking me about credit cards since I posted about it before, and it is something that I'm quite passionate about, and I like a lot about. So I wanted to talk about the ones that I have. Not really the ones that I have, but it's more about my habits with them. So very early on, when I started my first job, I identified it as a tool that is very useful for me to maneuver through life, right? Because it was amazing to me that I can use this thing, pay the exact same amount of what I'm gonna pay anyway, and get money back. You know, I get money back for spending the same amount, and I pay for it back later. And the biggest problem that people have with credit cards is it always invokes like this very extreme reactions. It's either people are like all crazy about it and thinks it's fantastic, or people are like that's the devil, I can never discipline myself, I can't not spend more than what I have. So basically the only problem people have with credit cards is their own discipline. If you have no discipline, probably turn this off, because it's not gonna work. You gotta have discipline if you want to have a credit card, man. That's the number one prerequisite, because if not, you're just gonna be a slave. You're gonna be stuck with it forever. You're gonna have credit card debts and live a miserable life and die unhappy.
That's me.
So like my mindset when I use a credit card is, when I spend it, I figure out whether I can afford to pay for it or not. So I only spend on things that I know that I can pay for. It's like I kind of use it like a debit card, because you know when you use a debit card, it will not go through unless you have money in the bank. So like I know that if I have this amount of money, that's when I can spend it. If not, I don't spend it at all. That means I probably don't deserve it. That means it's also things that I cannot afford to pay for. Unless it's an emergency, like, you know, sometimes you get into really bad situations and you need the access to cash. But other than that, you don't. And that is how I've never paid any credit card interest. I've never paid any credit card interest at all since I started having my first credit card for my first job. So every single time, in fact last time even more extreme, I used to pay like immediately after I spend it, because I can with the online banking. So that has saved me a lot of money. That has also made me lots of money from all this cash that I get from the cashbacks. I used to use a lot more of these point cards. Now I focus more on the cashback cards. So every month I get free money that comes in for spending and all of that. So one big mistake that people do, especially if you have a full-time job, if you're working in a financial institution, if you if you're an engineer or something, you have like a full-time job with like monthly salary, especially if you work in a bank. When you work in banks, the chances of you getting your credit card approved is so much higher than normal people, because maybe there's like a brotherhood thing or something. But if you work in a bank, it's so easy. So most of the cards that I applied for was when I was working in a bank. So most of it was approved very easily. Now I'm feeling the change. Now I'm feeling the difference, because now I work on my own, do insurance, so it's an insurance business. I'm starting to feel like the treatment is different from if you work in a full-time job with like, you know, normal salary every time, or if you do your own business. So if you work a full-time job and you don't have a credit card, and you're also a responsible person, not like the one I said earlier on, please apply for a credit card as soon as possible, because this is the same tool that will save you in different phases in your life. Lots of people talk about starting a business, they want to do something on their own in the future. It's the whole Gen Y millennial thing, right? So if you want to start a business one day, you might face a situation where you need cash flow. You need some access to cash to buy stock at the moment, or to spend for the things that you know that you're gonna get the returns back in the future. How else are you gonna get that? Taking personal loans are very expensive, even though it's easy, but it's very expensive. Credit cards are the easiest and cheapest way, because you literally just swipe it. So when you work for a company and you have let's say you have a big salary and you have like a stable thing, they give you a high credit limit. If you work in a bank, in fact, they give you like more than normal credit limit that they give. And I always try to max out the credit limit that they give me. In fact, I have also requested for them to increase it. And it's just like, kind of like, I don't know, it's like mind-boggling to me when someone tells me that, oh, I just asked the bank to reduce it because I don't want to spend it. That sounds completely crazy to me. Like if you have like a 20K limit and you ask them, oh no, I just want 5K, you just like threw away access to 15K, which costs you zero money. Just by keeping it, it costs you nothing just to keep that, which is going to be very helpful in the future. So if you keep like a good track record with a bank, if you're a good paymaster, you request for an increase later, they're going to give it to you. Because you don't know what you're gonna do. You don't know what's gonna happen in your life in the future, right? You know, like if you want to venture into something, and even if you're like in a bad position, you need the access to money. That is the best way for you to do it, because you have that period of time before you have to pay it back. So don't pay any interest on credit cards. Credit card interests are so high, and the other thing that drives me crazy is like when people have investments, like they have like ASB, they have like unit trust or whatever, but they pay credit card interest. Like they max it out 10,000 ringgit or something that they pay interest for every month, and then they're like, oh, I'm a responsible human being, like I have investments, I have like ASB or whatever, right? Because like the interest for the credit card is literally so much higher than what you would make from ASB, right, man?
Yes. I'm one of those.
I had to fix this girl, check her real quick. I mean, like credit card interests are like 14%, 18%. They're so high per annum, and it's the same. Like if you put it in ASB, that's like, I don't know, 7-8% or something. If you put unit trust, even if it's like a great performing fund, let's say you make like 12% or like 15% from your unit trust, you're essentially taking whatever it is, just paying back the interest for the credit cards. So sort out your credit card first before you even think about investing money anywhere else, because that's the money that you're just throwing away. Because it seems pretty simple, like it sounds pretty simple, but I think it's a common mistake that lots of people do. They don't prioritize paying that off first, thinking that they're trying to be responsible somewhere else, but that is the most responsible thing to do. Treat your credit cards like they're debit cards. Yeah, I think that might save lots of lives today. Yeah. Treat your credit cards like your debit cards, and try to apply for as many as possible. And I'll tell you what happened, the difference before and now. Back then, we used to have this thing called the government fee, which is like 50 ringgit. For every card that you have to pay 50 ringgit to the government every year. Just like, I don't know, government tax, right? But with the implementation of GST, they got rid of that 50 ringgit. So now you just pay GST on the service tax. So when you get a card, look for the cards that are free for life. You don't have to pay any annual fees for, right? Most of the platinum cards or the regular cards, they don't have any fees. CIMB cards don't have any fees for the whole life. So get those cards, because when you don't pay any fees for the cards, that means you don't pay any GST for it. You pay nothing. So you have this plastic that you just keep at home, and most of the cards that I have, I only carry like a couple with me. They're ones that I use regularly for different things, but most of them I just leave it at home. They're just like, collecting dust at home, because I might use it later. Just because I have access to it later. Sometimes when I want to make a big purchase, a specific place, I diversify the banks that I go with. So I have like, I don't know, one from most of the big banks. I diversify that because sometimes I want to make a big purchase, right? And it's like 10%, 25% or something ridiculous just because you have that card. So just keeping it at home without the government tax anymore, there's really nothing to lose by having it.
Okay, I have a question about paying back.
What?
What happens to you when you only pay the minimum amount every month?
So like when you... yeah, that's one thing. I guess that's why a lot of people think that they are fine with the credit card thing, because they pay the minimum amount, right?
Yeah.
So the minimum amount could be like, I don't know, I think it's like, and I've never paid, so I don't know if it's like 5% or something, 10%. So whatever the minimum amount is, when you pay that, everything else gets into this where you have to pay the credit card fees, credit card interest, right? So everything else is the 14%, 16% I was telling you about. So you're just servicing it just like that, just to keep it afloat, so that the banks like don't kick you out or whatever. But everything else is gonna be charged that interest, like month and month and month. So the higher it goes, the more you owe the bank. So it's like, you hear like the magic of compounding interest when you invest, right? This is the magic of going bankrupt. It's like the money that you have that you don't have increases and increases and increases. And that is why we have so many young people going bankrupt. Like I read somewhere that the bankruptcy rate among the younger people have increased, and most of them is because of credit card.
So never ever just pay the minimum amount.
Don't pay the minimum amount and apply for as many as possible. That's what I've experienced, especially if you want to do a business someday and you have like a full-time, like stable job right now where you can easily just give your 3 month salary and they give you. I would go out and apply. You know, when you go to a mall, that's the easiest and the fastest way to apply, and you even get a teddy bear or whatever, like for signing up. Like there's a sign-up fee and they give you cash and all that. Go to a mall, sometimes you see 2-3 booths, right? Just apply for a few, man. Just like, because it's so easy. They have the machine over there, you put your thumbprint, they take your card. Because you are like if you are a full-time employee, right? Because you're a full-time employee, your EPF slip is already good enough. If you're not, if you run a business like myself, it's a bit more complicated, and I have to give like my filing and all that. So it sucks more, and the chances are it's a bit lower. If you're commission based, it's also chances are a bit lower. You need to have like a stronger track record. So get it now, and later on it might save your life. But if you are not responsible, once again, please disregard everything that I said. It's the
I have
worst.
another question.
Yeah.
Can I get supplementary cards for all 10 of them? Since you're the responsible one, I just use the supplementary card.
There's no point on me being the responsible one, just to be offset by you. Okay?
I'll make you go bankrupt.
So you do have a few. Supplementary cards are a good way as well, if you're responsible. So please, like if you're taking it from your parents or your spouse, don't screw them over. Then you have access to it as well. And because I meet a lot of business owners these days, they tell me a lot of the same problems. Like they can't get it. They can't get credit cards, maybe because that's a whole different issue that maybe I'll talk about in the future. Because if you don't have like a good filing, if you don't keep your finances good for your business, and you don't have a good financial track record, it's going to be hard for you. But that's a different story. And I hear that a lot. So they don't have access to capital, which is like to me, I'm like, why don't you just swipe? Why don't you just swipe? But that's like my answer for most things. Then I realized that that's not something that most people can do. So get that, and I guess that's about it. If there's interest, if you guys think this is interesting, you can let me know. You can just comment or something, or like this or whatever, so that I know to do more of this in the future. If not, I don't know, I'll talk about something else, right? That's about it. I actually started going back to work today. So that's why I guess I'm kind of hyper today. I'm kind of excited. Sitting at home like all the time drives me crazy. So first time I drove to work today, it was great. So looking forward to getting my life back on track. You guys have a good week. Take care. See you. Bye.